Hello architects and welcome back to another RPG Architect tutorial. My name is Bert and today we're going to be diving into some cutscene related scripting, specifically some camera movement stuff. We're gonna have the camera pan around, we're gonna animate this little door here. Pretty simple, but we are going. I realized I didn't do much of that in my main 2D thing that I was doing for a while, but that's okay. We're gonna do it here in first person. So there were some preliminary steps I set up. If you remember from the last one, I did not have this little hallway set up. That is basic stuff. You know, I just drew it in there. I just set up this door entity. There's nothing listed on it. All I did really was set the sprite and set it to a flat Z plane so that when I come around this corner it is facing the proper direction. The only other thing I did that was a little involved was I set up a new global switch called mouse disabled, because I want to be able to turn the mouse movement, the looking around, I want to be able to turn that on and off when a cutscene triggers. So the way I achieved that is I created a switch. I just called it mouse disabled, and then in my virtual keys plural on the mouse movement y-axis ongoing script, I just created a conditional saying that if mouse disabled is on, then nothing happens. Otherwise, our mouse movement scripting happens. We change the variable, all this stuff, you know, the stuff I explained in that first person video. So, and I just did that with all four of these, the X and Y axis, just set up conditional. If mouse disabled is on, then do nothing when you move your mouse. Got it? Does it make sense? Okay, just show them all. And actually, one other thing I set up was I set up these little widescreen bars for when the cutscene triggers. This is not a requirement. I just did it to really signify, okay, we're in a cutscene. And all it is, I just took a couple of these elements, these box elements, and just put a color mask of black on them, and then stretched them way out. Just real quick and easy. Nothing fancy here. It's set to an overlay, right? That's the only other thing I did. So let's get into making our entity. I'm going to set one up right here. We're going to call this camera pan. Sure. We're going to set it to be player and entity touch. Actually, let me maximize this. We'll call this first script name camera move. We're going to have a second one as well. We will get into that when we get into it. So first thing I'm going to do is turn off the mouse like we were talking about. So I'll set my switch, turn the mouse disabled switch on. So now when we hit it, we can't be looking around as the camera's panning, right? I'm going to toggle my controls because same thing. I don't want to be able to move around. So this is more your walking. That's turning them off, okay? Then I'm going to open that overlay, widescreen overlay, okay? And I want to store this ID in a local variable, just because we need the unique ID of it so we can turn it off after we're done, right? So let's just call this on, or yeah, we'll just call it on. It's a local variable, so it's not going to get confusing at all. All right. So we disable our mouse, we disable our controls, we trigger our widescreen. Got it? Okay. Next, just for flow, we're going to do a quick little control flow. Wait, we'll block input, that's fine. And now here's where we actually get to the camera movement. So we're going to add under maps, camera, we're going to choose adjust camera, and we're going to use this delta value so that the camera actually moves. It doesn't snap to the location we're going to set up, okay? And for this one, we are just going to be selecting our Z coordinate, and I think I want about 3.5. Now I'll do 3.75. Oops, missing. Now I'm only doing my Z here because of the way I want my movement to be. I want it to just kind of pan down here, and then I'm gonna have it turn. I'm not going to have it like sweep across and it cut through here or anything like that. Depending on what you want your camera movement to do, your values will be different, but for this particular instance, we just need it to move down the z-axis about 3. And if you might be saying, well, why is it 3.75 and not just 3? And it's because we have trigger when entity and player collide. So really the event is triggering right about here is what I've found. And maybe if I adjust my colliders, I could get that to be dead center of the tile, but it's okay. We'll be all right. I'm just going to do 3.75. Again, your values are going to be different depending on what you're doing. So the last thing I need to do with this is I need to set the duration. So how long is it going to take for the camera to pan around? I'm going to do about 2 seconds. So 2 seconds from here, the camera's going to move down this way, and then I'm going to do a second adjust camera. Let's turn our Z off. And I want this one instead to rotate the camera. So we're down here and we need to turn this way, right? So let's do rotation y-axis, y'all. -90 for this one, and I think I'm gonna do also about 2000. Okay, easy peasy. I'm gonna do another wait command here. I might bump it up to about 1500. And now, so now the camera should be right here, okay? And we want, part of our cutscene is we want this door to open. So I think I've got it named, yep, it's called door 1. So when we get to this point, we're going to do entity, move entity, okay? We're going to choose entity door 1, choose the entity you want to animate. I'm going to select wait to complete, and we are going to choose our movements. And the way we set up our movement for something like a door, you may remember this from my doors and switches tutorial, but we're going to select change sprite. Let's just find our door here. I think it was, no, it's under doodads. There it is. Okay. One direction, not the band. One frame count. Frame width is 48 for this instance. Frame height is 48. And it's this sequence here is what I need. So I'm going to select this next frame in my sequence. Hit OK. Let's copy it and paste it twice. So then the middle frame is going to be this one. And then the last frame is going to be this one. Okay. And just to make it super smooth and not like lightning quick, we're going to add a wait command. I think I'll do about like 100 milliseconds, so 1/10 of a second between each frame. Okay. Hit OK or apply. Bam, that looks good. Let's go ahead and add another wait command. A lot of these wait commands and stuff like that, these are just for flow of the scene, right? You just have to dial those in and test them out how you want. So, you know, 1.5 seconds is what 1500 is. Okay, and then up next, what we're going to do is we are going to change our switch. We're going to turn a local switch. We just need to turn this event off. So let's resize. And let's just call it A. Let's turn this one on. Now, this is going to trigger our next script here. So I need to call it off or something. Or no, let's call it reset. So, to trigger reset, we need local switch A on, right? So the condition is going to be local switch A is on. And you can even set this up to where if local switch A is off, this runs. Local switch A is on, this runs. Let's switch it back to player and entity touch because we're still going to be standing there. So what we need to do, we need to turn the widescreen off, so close user interface. We had stored our unique ID in the local variable, so we select local variable on, if you remember. Camera move, stored ID, destination, local variable, right? So now this is turning our widescreen bars off. We need to reset our camera target, so map, set camera target, and you can just select this reset target. It just goes back to your default, so we'll go back to our player. We need to turn our controls back on, toggle control on, and finally we need to turn this switch of mouse disabled is back off, okay? So just to recap, we are getting rid of the widescreen, we are resetting the camera target to our player, we are turning our walking controls back on, and we are turning our mouse controls back on, okay? So let's see what this looks like. There's gonna be one more thing we're gonna do after this, but I'm just gonna show you what this is right now, okay? Okay, here we are. There's the top end of the hallway. This is the way we want to go. So let's walk into the bar. Widescreen enables. We turn, look at the gate, opens up, and we are back. Oops, you know what I forgot? Okay, so I'm running into an entity here. I know exactly what I did. I didn't set the ignore collision, okay? That's okay, because there was another thing I want to show you. Let's restart. The one problem, or one of the problems we have with this, I'm gonna run it again. Ignore that extra info in the top left. I will get to that in a second. What happens if we walk into our cutscene, trigger, entity, backwards, and looking down? Uh-oh, camera just pans. Okay, so that can get messy real quick. So what we need to do is we need to save some camera info. Now you may have noticed in the top left corner of that preview I had my Y and X axis displayed because in the midst of this tutorial I realized I forgot how I was doing something. So what I want to do is I need to save the direction the camera is looking so that I can reset it after the cutscene, and so I can determine which way I need the camera to look at the start of it, right? So if you're looking down, I want the camera to reset and be looking down the hallway so that the motion we set up is right. So I'm going to show you this just so you can figure out your own values. What we're going to do is we're going to add a new entity. This is going to run automatically. We're going to call it save camera, I guess. And we're just going to save a couple values. Save value camera, pitch X rotation in degrees. Going to save that. I already have them set up. A couple of global switches. So we'll do X for that one, and then let's do Y for this one. So we are saving the X and Y position of our camera, and that will give us, oh, and then on top of that, I should show this in my user interface. Under the stamina, I just set up a couple of text elements to show, okay, this is showing my Y, this is showing my X, global variable 6 and 7, right? And so this will give us the values we need to know when walking into this. So we see, okay, X-axis needs to be about 90, or I'm sorry, Y-axis needs to be about 90, X-axis needs to be about 270-ish, roughly there, okay? So now, knowing that, let's go back to our entity, and after the widescreen comes up, let's do this. Let's do adjust camera. Well, I got lost for a second just in my mind. And we are going to set the, what was it, X to 72? Y90. I think Y was on top, yeah. Just set these, no time duration. For this instance, I'm just gonna have it snap to it. And not as a delta value, because again, I'm gonna have it snap to it. And then the other thing I wanna do is when this event triggers, kind of the same thing. I need to save the value of where I'm at. Save camera, same thing. X rotation, we can save this one in a local though. Let's call it X position. And then paste again. Let's change this one to Y. Y position. Okay, so we've saved these values, right? And then after this, let me see, let me check something. Just wanted to see where I had it in my other script. So now we've saved the value of our camera when we walked into the event. We've reset the camera to the position we need it to be facing for the camera movements to look correct. And now before we turn this all off, oops, let's reset the camera to our starting position. So let's do X and Y and choose your local variables. So X position, yes. Y position, I keep misclicking this morning. I'm tired, it's okay. There we go, okay? So once again, we turn the mouse off, we save the position of our camera, the way we are looking when we walk into this entity. We turn our walking controls off, we open up the widescreen overlay, and we store that ID into a local variable so we can turn it off later. We wait just for scene flow. We set our camera to be facing the proper direction so that our cutscene plays out accordingly. And then we set with these two camera adjustments, we have the camera move down and then it turns to face left. We wait a second and a half. We trigger the door movement here by changing the sprite and waiting. Door number 1, wait to complete so we can see the whole thing before the next part triggers. Wait a second and a half. And then we reset our camera back to where we started, the position we were facing when we triggered the event. We turn the local switch on so that we move over to this script in which we turn our widescreen bars off. I know it says on, but we are turning them off. We reset the camera to be to target just us. We turn our controls back on, and we turn our mouse back on. Got it? Makes sense? Let's give it a look. Okay, here we are. Looking around, everything's good. Let's look at the floor and kind of down to the side. Let's walk into our event. Here we go. Exactly like we needed it, and then it's gonna reset back looking at our floor. Bam, there we go. Oh, and you know what you know what I forgot to do? This is no big deal. I forgot to set for this event, for both script pages, set ignore entity collision, but also register ignored collisions. That's what I forgot. And that way you can clip through this, but all the scripting events that we set up still register. So let's do it one more time. Opens up. Looking up top right, start walking, and the bars disappear. There we go. And now we are in this room here. Cool. All right, so that should do it for today's tutorial. I hope that made sense. I hope that helps you out setting up your own cutscenes. There's other options in the camera movement stuff. If you're not in a first-person project, or you're wanting to bounce back and forth between different camera types or camera angles, there's also we mainly worked in the adjust camera one, but we have set camera type where you can change between 2D and 3D. Pretty sure I showed that off way back in the day, but you can, you have these options here. They're pretty self-explanatory. Set to your project's default orthographic perspective. First person, you can adjust those things if you need, or the other option we have here is set camera target. So if you need to just retarget something, you can specify it here. It'd be a party member. You can specify a specific entity or by unique ID. You can set specific coordinates that you need. If you just want to snap to something, all this is what you could use. But yeah, if you did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to our channel. It really does help us out a lot. If you have not grabbed your copy of RPG Architect yet, please do. We are still in early access, but we are well on our way to version 1.0. If you enjoyed the music in this video, please be sure to check out my Patreon or my itch.io page, where you can find said song and use it in your very own project. I would love to see that. And if you have any further questions, be sure to join our Discord, where you can just become a member of the community and get a lot of feedback from people. You can share what projects you're working on. It's a really good time there. Okay? Alright, well, as always, you have been amazing. I have been Bert, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Master